Well, I have no earthly idea if I'm doing this correctly. Uh, it the raft is what I suspected. It's just underneath what it needs to be under, but boy, this is printing like a quarter of an inch wide, which I think would be great for gluing stuff together, but how would it print in a different orientation? Am I even doing this right at all? Well, this has just gotten started, so I won't know a single thing for hours. So I'm going to go about my other stuff, leave it alone, leave it out of my mind, and see what it creates. Boy, that infill's getting awful deep. I'm getting worried that I'm not building it in the proper orientation, and I'm just going to have a unusable piece. It's just like walls or something. I just don't know. I'm going to keep at it, see what I produce. I may try to print it in another orientation and see what I produce. And then I'm sure I'll be asking the designer questions and have something to show them that illustrates what's going on. This is just my first attempt. So, like I say, I'm a little worried. It's like it's going to be hollow. Maybe everything's supposed to be built in the orientation that it is when you download them. I don't know. Like I say, I'm just getting worried. I'll shut up. It's the strangest filament I've seen yet. It's like paper. Of course, I'm printing it single wall. That's the infill in the middle. But this filament is like paper. It's unbelievable. I don't know how deep the hole is going to get between those two walls. Can't take a good picture of it either. It's still printing. It might not finish before I go to bed, but in my humble opinion, when it's going to try, I looked at Cura, and it's going to try to come up, and as the kind of the dome here closes, it's going to try to print a dome and then print this infill across it and then come back over the top of it with another dome. I'll try to show that in Cura tomorrow. I don't think it's going to successfully do that without support, but I don't know that for sure. It's all theory at this point for me. So I'm going to try to let it print and see when it fails. I just don't want to have a failed print after I go to bed. These printers can catch on fire. So, really interesting though.
And this is what I'm talking about on that print as it comes up to the point here. Let's pull down some layers. You can see right there as the top layer, which is one dome, comes apart, you're actually going to start seeing infill. The red lines are infill, and right there starts that little red part right in the middle right there starts the dome that's below that infill on the inside coming apart, opening up. See, now it would be a hole. I don't think I can rock up that much. Yep. See, now it's a hole, but you can see infill here and here that supports the second dome. Once this one closes, and my worry is about this one closing at the moment. See if I come up one layer at a time. You can see that right there. That's what I'm worried about. And that obviously is a hole, but then the next layer decks over it. So that's what I'm worrying about. And then it comes on up. The infill is And see, that infill on that inner dome will support that second dome that's closing right now. So that's what I was worried about. Now then, on this particular model we're looking at, I have all the perimeters set the way I think they should be set. One wall. The infill is using that cubic subdivision at 3%. Didn't tell me anything about what this should be set to, but I left it at the default. Let's see, the material 200 and 600 on the bed. Speed, again, I chose 40 just to slow it down a little bit. I want it to print well. Cooling is 100% on, and I am printing it on a raft simply because I want to have all the first few layer problems out. So that's the way this is, and I will print this one this way. But now let's just take a little bit of a look at that infill with it cubic subdivision. I can't tell that much about it as I scroll down through it. It looks somewhat like the other, but I'm going to use what I'm told to use. You can't start troubleshooting until you have attempted to build it exactly like the maker tells you to. If there's a failure, then you have to decide, was it my failure? Was I unable to follow their instructions? Once you have those decisions made, then you can start deciding, well, maybe if I did this, I can make it better. I think that comes kind of further down the line. Oh, by the way, it looks like the new Cura does. Here's the raft, and here's that hole in the center of that raft that just kind of got me by surprise the other day. And we've got 1, 2, 3. Wow. And that does come in kind of funky like that on that raft. If this is the only thing, or this colored here is the only thing they're printing at this level.
Wow. See what I mean? Right down through there and right down through there are those 3 divisions that are somewhat different. These problems here are when I took the build off this raft, some of the plastic broke. But you can actually see, I wondered what was going on when I saw this when it was building the raft. But it's right there in Cura. Oh, man.
Weird. And there's 4, so we got 4 layers for the raft. 5, yeah, 4 layers for the raft to get out some imperfections, and then the 5th layer starts the print itself. And that print does print like that solid for 1, looks like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think that's what I've got yep, 6 layers for the bottom is what I've got set. That would be top bottom here. That's the defaults. So your bottom layers 6 for 6 millimeters. That seems to be coming out well, and that is the default. And then on layer number, the next layer up, which is number 11 technically, you can see the infill starts. Let me look at that infill. If I go in and turn off, if I change this cubic subdivision to just straight cubic, which I had it on the other print, and go, well, I was hoping it was just going to change what I saw, but it's not. I would have to reslice it and everything, and get back up to layer 11. And the time all that happens, I can't remember where those marks were. Oh, I guess it did stay where I had it. So those infills right there do look differently. Layer 13 do look different than these infill marks. And I think, yep, 13. Yep, they do look different. Yeah, so I'm going to print it again today. It's going to take about 10 hours, and I think that will be my final printing. I will set that aside and continue printing other things. I'm really having fun with this, and I'm also learning more about Cura. That's usually the way I learn. I don't sit down and learn something just for kicks and grins usually. I usually learn it on the fly, on the run, whatever you want to call it, while I'm doing a project. Yeah, probably would be a little easier on myself if I just sat down and did an overall Cura tutorial sometime. But really, the way I do things is I will leave one project with what Cura knowledge I have and go into the other next project and pick up maybe 2 or 3 other little things. I'm already, I've had the printer 2 years. I already learned G-code and modifying G-code directly. I don't think that's hard for a programmer. Not only, after I got out of the Navy and did all that hardware and electronics work, I used my GI Bill when I went to college to become a programmer. I did know assembly language and stuff like that because you have to program machine language, whatever you want to call it. I call it assembly or machine language. You have to when you design a computer circuit. You're the one that designs that repertoire technically at first. And you have to work in machine language on those circuits. You can't work in any language above that, really. Nowadays you can't. Not back then you didn't. So I had the hardest programming language on the face of the planet was machine language or a repertoire of instruction for a processor chip down before I got out of the Navy. When I went to college, I took Fortran, COBOL. Those were the only programming languages when I was in college. C++, HTML was 20, 30 years away, Perl and all that crap. But I learned BASIC on my own playing with a Radio Shack tabletop computer. All right, let's move along here.
And my little printer seems to be printing it pretty darn well. Just such a unique thing to print. The head keeps getting in the way. So, don't go to bed for a couple of hours. Well, it just keeps getting smaller and smaller on that inner dome. I just can't believe the last little bit of that is flat. It can't, just can't float in midair. We'll see what happens here. Crazy. It's supposed to print for 3 more hours. Well, it's sort of printed. Got some roughness up here. Not quite sure what it is. Have to get it over in the light. But overall, I would say that's pretty darn good. Don't know if this can be sanded. It is the top of a mini Talon. Oops. Boy, that feels pretty solid. I'm going to let it cool a bit more. It'll come off the build surface much easier. I'll probably do something with it tomorrow. Well, it finished printing last night. I haven't taken the raft off of it yet. It's pretty unusual. It did complete without failing. It's amazing. And it feels like paper. It's wild. Like I say, I saw Josh Bixler show this filament PLA months ago. I just never had an opportunity to test it. So we'll take the raft off now. Wow. Oops. Doesn't want to come loose there. A little cleanup to do right there. Not much. We'll do that later. And as you can see down in there, the center part did not fail either. It printed. I can't believe it. And it's looks like this. I've got a nice surface right here to glue to. I mean, except for the fact that I printed it with the wrong infill. It's double walled with infill between it. And it is kind of, you know, it's not as strong as foam, I guess. We'll see how the one with the other infill works out. Now this up here, you can see a little bit of color difference right here. There must be something different going on inside. As it gets up to this dome, it is really strong. So we'll see how the rest of this works out later. I am super impressed with it. Also, my little printer. There's a little blemish there. One right there. A little there. But overall, I think my printer did a really good job. I mess with that printer constantly, tuning it and setting it up. I'm going to do a little cleanup work around the edges. I really do just want to crush this, and this is not a, I started to say not a usable part, but I just don't yet understand how the infill works. And the fact that I had it set wrong, I think is on me that it was wrong. But the part does feel really, really good. So I sanded this face right here ever so lightly by hand, and it just cleaned up beautifully. You know, I'm going to keep moving along here. Like I say, I've got the second one printing with the different infill.
We're going to stop right there. This is a combination of some videos I took last night and some I took when I got up today, when I took the raft off the part. It is absolutely amazing in every way I can think of. I'm going to continue along and build some more of the parts. I am currently reprinting that nose, fuselage one, whatever you want to call it, with the proper infill. I'll show that. And then I start on the fuselage parts, the rest of them. They're quite expansive. They're going to take day, 16 hours, not a day and 16 hours, I'm trying to say there. In other words, 8 hours less than 2 days per print on a lot of those. So this isn't going to go quickly, but I don't want it to go quickly. I want it to go as well as it can rather than fast. I'm not yet sure what I'm going to do with this after I print all the parts. That's still not firm in my mind, so let's proceed along. Thanks, guys.